Well, and consumer spending is really down. And China state-run media was bragging about how there's so much travel during the Spring Festival. But if you actually look at the numbers of the sales that are happening during this 2-week period, they're actually way down compared to, previous years.
I'm sure they can say there's so much travel because, I mean, it was on lockdown for so long. So if you
Yes.
compare it to 2
Under
years
Look
ago.
how much people are traveling compared to the height of COVID when we
Yeah.
did not let them.
But yeah, it's interesting. There's less internal demand in China. There's also less external demand because people. I saw something from Reuters the other day that the U.S. might replace China as Germany's top trading partner, and I think about what a sea change that would be. Like the CCP has used its economic leverage over Germany, especially under Angela Merkel, to control so much of the EU agenda. Because the EU was basically Germany.
I don't think that Germany's really turned the ship around in that sense yet.
Nope, they're still floating on that cyanide water.
Yeah, so you have less demand for Chinese exports, and that means that there's less output from those Chinese factories, which means there's less jobs. And with less jobs, consumers have less money, so they're spending less, which means internal consumption of products also goes down, which is just a downward spiral for that whole economy.
Or the Communist Party steps in, and in order to prevent, decreased output, they artificially lower prices of Chinese goods so the factories can keep producing the same amount. But then they're essentially dumping Chinese projects internationally. And then countries, complain and put more sanctions and probes.
But also
it's
not economically viable long term because, where is the CCP going to get the money to do all those subsidies? Well, they can do taxation, but they can only get so much if the economy's weak.
Well, in the past, they used to do it by foreign investment.
Right.
But that's dried up.
Right. And they could try printing money, but the problem with that is if you print too much money and you get inflation, that weakens the value of your currency. Then that basically screws up your your trade, and it screws up your imports. So there's a whole knock-on effects of everything that they're trying or could potentially try to do.
What's going through my head right now is that the CCP is hoping that Temu will save the Chinese economy.
Not Shein?
Well,
Shelley, did you know it's
you want to shop like a billionaire, Chris.
It's actually pronounced Temu, Shelley.
As all the Super Bowl ads tried to tell us. Yeah, okay. Well, however it's pronounced, it is insane the amount of marketing and advertising that's going into.
And the prices are they're so low, they're either subsidized by the Chinese state or the labor on creating those products is free. And that's always a good sign when people in China are making things without getting paid.
Yeah, I understand that completely not buying anything made in China is very challenging for a lot of people. But you don't have to use Temu or Temu, whatever. And I still know people who use it. And it's this is a weapon created by the Chinese Communist Party.
But Chris, have you seen what you can get for $2.99? Yeah, it is.
You can get a brand new dress for just $2.99, Chris.
Or a weird. I feel like Temu ads are often weird things to kind of catch your attention.
Yeah.
You'll be on a website and it'll be 3 random looking things, and there's nothing to tell you what this ad is for. But it's
communism destroys all meaning.
It's a Temu ad.
But also some of the products advertised haven't been manufactured. So they only make them if someone orders it.
That seems efficient.
It's just a weird thing because it allows them to have more products and then see where the demand is.
Well, Matt, when I order a Big Mac, I expect that Big Mac has not already been created. It's made fresh and
each
hot.
Time at McDonald's.
Each time.
Fresh and hot in the microwave. It is. They microwave it right there in the restaurant. Yeah. So don't shop on Temu.
Don't eat McDonald's before a podcast.
Or do, actually, I think, because look how sharp your brain is today.
So we're going to talk about the cranes?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about the cranes.
Oh, that's a good idea. My gosh, I'm really trying to make a Ukraine pun.
Oh,
it's not coming out.
I was actually thinking about origami cranes.
Okay.
So, but we both went in different but wrong directions.
That's right.
Shelley, get us back on the rails.
So I think we've talked before on the podcast about this, about how at U.S. ports there are a lot of the cranes that actually move the giant shipping containers are manufactured in China, and there's a security risk that comes along with it. So now the Biden administration is deciding that they will spend, what is it, 40 billion?
I think it's 20 billion from the $1 trillion infrastructure bill
to replace these Chinese-made cranes with non-Chinese made cranes. In fact, with cranes made in the U.S. for the first time in 30 plus years.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been cheaper to just always use U.S.?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, now we have to spend billions of dollars ripping out the cranes and putting in new cranes, because especially some of these ports are near military facilities.
Yeah.
So there is not just the concern that, let's say we get into some kind of war with China, or even not a full war, just like a trade war or something, and then the cranes stop working, right? Or there's
because it's the Chinese software that controls the Chinese crane hardware.
So to stall, as a kind of like a hostage negotiation,
they basically disrupt shipping, and they stop all shipping for a week. And like 80% of U.S. Shipping cranes, like the ship to shore cranes, 80% are made by Chinese companies. It's mainly just one big state.
And we already saw like the effect this can have during COVID, when there would be like huge backlogs in ports, but the train system wasn't working. It was a disaster. And that's when everyone was working together to try and fix things as quickly as possible.
There's another surveillance, another like security issue, which is that, and this is like right now, like because the software for these, like to make the unloading and loading more efficient, like it has these systems for tracking what's in the cargo container, what's the origin, what's the destination, right? And so basically, if all this information is going to Beijing, which it might currently go to Beijing, or it might be triggered to do that in the future, I don't know. But then basically, even if we stop trading with China, they can monitor where all the supplies are going, and if they see us sending certain types of supplies that could be weapons or could just be military adjacent things, or even food, packages and stuff to Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, then they know that something's coming, right? And so it's also allowing them to track really key strategic economic movements.
And like I was mentioning, the military installations, like military sometimes uses the same ports.
Yeah.
As these civilian ports. So now then you have like that extra layer of like, could these cranes be able to have surveillance capabilities over military logistics?
It was such a bad idea giving Chinese companies access to critical U.S. infrastructure.
But Chris, it was so cheap. They were just offering a great
Temu.
deal.
Hey, come on, who cares?
There's not going to be a much heavier price later down the line.
No.
What kind of upsets me about this, like, first, I do actually think the Biden administration is doing the right thing here by trying to stop ports from using Chinese cranes. Like, it's absolutely the right move, even though it's going to cost billions and billions of dollars. But the thing is that if there had been a law passed 20 years ago that prevented this, then the corporations would have just bought cranes made in the US or like allied countries. And then not only would they not have to be so wasteful with this, but it wouldn't cost US taxpayers enormous amounts of money.
If only Biden had been in politics back then, 20 years ago.